Before I go into all the scumbag, ugly stuff about Black Lives Matter, allow me to say something nice. You see, we always say something mean. Well, not always, but when we're talking about leftist scumbags, I'm generally pretty mean. And don't get me wrong, Black Lives Matter, they're as scummy and ugly as it gets. But I do have to give them credit. Branding really is everything, isn't it? What a name. Black Lives Matter. It's so simple. It's one you can't disagree with, right? Are you saying you don't think Black Lives Matter? What are you, some kind of racist? It's beautiful. It's so perfectly done. But it is important for you to understand this. We have never seen anything like Black Lives Matter in the United States of America. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been violent domestic terrorist groups before. We've had the KKK. We've had the Black Panthers. We've had other violent, there was a nasty anarchist wing that actually shot President McKinley and killed him early on. I know I'm not gonna history nerd out on you, but we've had violent domestic terrorist groups before. But what makes Black Lives Matter different is this one has the approval of America's cultural institutions. The violent domestic terrorist groups before were shunned for the most part. Sure, you'd have some maybe a sympathizer here or a sympathizer there in power, but for the most part, you're not advertising. Coca-Cola isn't advertising its pro-KKK stance. Of course, that's absurd, even back in the day. Today, Black Lives Matter, they've been mainstreamed while they're burning and looting and killing people. Mainstreamed. How many TV screens have you seen it on? How many commercials? Professional sports leagues. The NBA, from my understanding, has it painted in large letters across the floor. Players are wearing it on their jerseys. Politicians are championing Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Hollywood celebrities, musicians. It's everywhere as if they're the cool new hip thing. As if this is just some, civil rights group just trying to do the right thing out there. It's stunning. We've never had anything like that happen before in the United States of America, ever. A violent, racist, domestic terrorist group that has the approval of America's cultural institutions. I don't know whether that says more about how Black Lives Matter has branded itself, whether it says a lot about this horrible white guilt society we have, which is really weird, or whether it just says that people don't really pay attention. They don't really look into things. I think people don't understand that Black Lives Matter didn't just pop up out of the blue. Black Lives Matter has been murdering law enforcement officers for years in the United States of America. Do you remember that horrible, horrible night in Dallas when 5 Dallas police officers were gunned down, and finally they had to send in, I believe it was the SWAT team with an exploding robot to kill the guy because he wouldn't come in alive? You know what he was saying during that negotiation time? Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Did you even know that? These people have been killing people for years. And yet one of my sons logs into one of his video games one day, and the loading screen pops up. Black Lives Matter. They're everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. If Black Lives Matter, if they were Muslims, if Black Lives Matter was a Muslim group running around, maybe something on their head, yelling Allah Akbar, doing the exact same things they're doing, you and all of American society would have no problem whatsoever rounding up every single one who was a citizen and throwing him in a dark hole forever. And everyone who wasn't a citizen, you'd have no problem with the government authorizing drone strikes on them. But instead, because of what? A label? White guilt? I don't know. Because of something, we've somehow decided this group is legitimate. They're not legitimate. This is domestic terrorism. You don't get to hold people hostage like this, whole cities hostage like this, violent acts against civilians and police officers, burning, looting. You're not free to just do that here in this country. Hey, thanks so much for watching the first on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.